Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, happy to be here with you. El Macho, some of you call me, and I'm thrilled to be here. It's January 6th, the celebration of the Epiphany, the 12th day of Christmas, the celebration of Los Reyes Magos. So, Feliz Reyes to anybody who celebrates that. It's a big, big holiday in Puerto Rico. Speaking of Puerto Rico, new governor there, by the way, a Republican. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But the big news of the day, the biggest story I've seen all day, Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, Donald J. Trump, the 45th president, the 47th president, has been certified. His election victory was certified in Congress today. And this was a big deal. Of course, this was made official by his opponent, his rival, Que Mala Eres. That's right, Kamala Harris. Que Mala Eres is like I like to call her, and that means how bad you are in Spanish. Listen to this.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris... Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes. The whole number of electors appointed to vote for Vice President of the United States is 538. Within that whole number, a majority is 270. The votes for Vice President of the United States are as follows. J.D. Vance of the state of Ohio has received 312 votes. Tim Walz of the state of Minnesota has received 226 votes.
All right, and there you have it. She made it official. Jokes were flying all over the internet today about her being the first woman of color to certify her own election loss. I thought that was funny. It was very rich, right? It really was. But kudos to her. I have to say, now that, you know, everything is behind us, I thought she was gracious. I don't think she was. She didn't make it a spectacle. She didn't cheapen the experience. I think she did a very, very good and fair job. So congratulations, Vice President Harris, on doing a good job presiding over this certification. It could have been worse. She could have been smirking more. She could have been a little bit more petty. And anyway, lots of news today. Big Monday. Mondays are always good. You got Judge Merchan, who won't stop. He will continue. Absolutely continue the witch hunt. He doesn't want to dismiss. He denied the Trump team's request to vacate all of those charges. And the Prime Minister of Canada has quit. Justin Trudeau, after getting beat up, right? He got beat up by Trump and a bunch of conservatives for the last, 2 weeks or a month? And it was like Trump just decided to make a meme of this guy saying, oh, Canada will become the 51st state and you could be one of our governors. And I mean, he just went in. And look at that, how effective that was. He's out. Listen to his announcement.
Last night over dinner, I told my kids about the decision that I'm sharing with you today. I intend to resign as party leader, as prime minister, after the party selects its next leader through a robust, nationwide, competitive process. Last night, I asked the president of the Liberal Party to begin that process. This country deserves a real choice in the next election, and it has become clear to me that if I'm having to fight internal battles, I cannot be the best option in that election.
So that is Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, again, who was just ridiculed ad nauseum, right, by so many people the last couple of weeks. And voila, everything was imploding right before his very eyes, and he's announced his defeat. I have to tell you, it's a great time to be alive. Not because my team is winning and the other team is losing, but because when my team wins, I believe humanity gets better. Right? Maybe I'm wrong, but I tend to feel a lot better. I really do. I think it's good for Canada. It's good for the United States. It's good to see the libs being stunted, right, in their radical progressiveness. I think that's important because it shows that the people are really not as interested in this agenda as maybe we were once led to believe. Now, I think this is in particular for me, if it's a point of personal privilege, a point of selfishness, if you will, this matters to me because there are times, when I sit here and I get on this microphone and I speak with you all, we the people, the American people, my amigos out there, that I think to myself, man, we're so screwed. My kids are screwed. Your kids are screwed. Our collective grandchildren are screwed because I feel like we're outnumbered. Right? I just think, I think, my goodness, for every one teenager that loves this country, there's, 3, 4, 5 of them that are going to go to some left-wing indoctrination mill known as a university and are going to come out hating this country. And that's scary to me. It really is. I mean, it reminds me of what happens when you go to a school like Boston University or something like that, and then you run for Congress, and then you win, right? You become AOC, all out crazy, our least favorite member of Congress from the Bronx and Queens, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and AOC, all out crazy, just as a flashback, because today is also the 4th anniversary of the January 6th riot on Capitol Hill. Yep. And guess what? I have dusted off a file tape of AOC all out crazy sitting down with CNN's Dana Bash saying that, well, you just have to hear exactly what she had to say.
I didn't think that I was just going to be killed. I thought other things were going to happen to me as well.
So what sounds like what you're telling me right now is that you didn't only think that you were going to die, you thought you were going to be raped.
Yeah. I thought I was.
And that you now understand, having thought about it, is because of your experience.
Yeah, I think so.
What? The FBI was trying to frame Trump. Nobody was trying to sexually assault this woman. God forbid. Right? But this is the hyperbolic world that she lives in. Now, listen, I'm not going to ridicule her fear. I guess the fear was appropriate. Maybe she wasn't in on, on the deal there with Pelosi and everybody else. But, man, to say that she thought something worse was going to be done. Listen, and if she's not making it up and it's not hyperbole for the sake of the cameras, then I feel really sorry for her. And she might be in the wrong business, right? Not that anybody who signs up for Congress expects to have the guy with the horns, and all that stuff running through the halls of Congress. No, but I think she still might be a little thin-skinned. Anyway, that's the January 6th. We're going to get into some conversation on that. Brandon Straka is scheduled to be with us in a little bit. He was, of course, arrested at the following because he was at the January 6th riot at the Capitol. He was outside the Capitol and he got locked up anyway. Then we're going to visit a file tape we have from just a week ago or two, right? Maybe 10 days ago. We spoke with somebody who's been in prison for January 6th for 1,400 days. And, of course, with reaction to all of that's going on, the certification of Trump's election, the fact that Judge Merchant won't stop, the new governor in Puerto Rico, and, of course, Trudeau quitting. We've got Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne joining us on all of the news of the day. So don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris... Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
Again, the certification of El Trompito's election was done today, January 6th. Happy Epiphany, of course. Feliz Dia de los Reyes Magos to everybody out there that celebrates Three Kings Day. And I want to bring in our guest to talk about this and so many other things. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in Congress. We have a brand new speaker again, the same speaker, but he's back, Speaker Johnson. Trump tax cuts have been heavily debated over the last few days. And, of course, plenty of news internationally to our northern border. And our guest, Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, a Republican from Texas's 24th District. Congresswoman, welcome back. Happy New Year.
Hey, so good to be here. Happy New Year. And I hope you are staying warm with all this crazy weather that we're seeing across the country.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I didn't, it's funny. I didn't expect any snow. I had no idea. I guess as much news as I consume,
Was
I
that
had no
not on
idea.
the bingo card? Was that on the bingo card for the New Year?
I didn't see it. But it was funny. I was on Instagram, and I saw one of your colleagues posting something, and there was snow in the background. I said, oh, my gosh, it's snowing on Capitol Hill. And that's how I knew it was snowing.
I'm trying to get home on Thursday, and I heard there's going to be like 6 to 10 inches of snow in Dallas on Thursday. I'm like,
I didn't even know it snowed in Dallas.
Every once in a while, it does. It does. It surprises you because nobody knows how to drive in it, and they don't have the infrastructure like they do in the north. So pray for me.
Tell me,
please.
what is, I'll be praying for your trip and all of that. But I want to know, what was it glorious today to be on Capitol Hill with all of the good news that was going on?
It was great. Look, we have got a lot to do, and I think everybody recognizes the immense amount of expectations that we are facing. But I think there's also just a general sense of optimism when you think about what happened in November. We look at the majority that they're going to hold in the Senate, the majority that we're holding in the House, and the fact that we are going to have the Republican president who will actually sign into law bills that we pass. I think those are all great things for the American people when we think about what that means for the border, when we think about that means for American energy and American energy independence and dominance, when you look at what we're going to do for inflation and for the economy, for small businesses. I think all of those things are important. And, yes, there's a lot of work that we have to get done, and I'm so relieved, I'm so optimistic that we were able to, on the first vote, get our speaker elected, but we've got a long list of items that we're going to have to achieve, and we're starting now. We've been working on this, and we are ready to go.
Amen to that. Now, Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, my question for you is this: it seems to me, from my perspective, and I could be wrong, and I want you to correct me if I am, but it seems to me I see Trump has won an election, a very decisive election. That's fantastic. He makes fun of Justin Trudeau a little bit. He resigns. He makes mention about a few different things, and lots of things seem to be happening that I feel like wouldn't have happened before. Do you feel like the tides are turning? Are Democrats like not fighting as much? Are they kind of calming down, or is that something I'm just making up in my mind?
Well, I think you look at the reaction that we're having from world leaders around the planet. right? Whether or not it's Trudeau in Canada, whether or not it's the new president in Mexico that has said she will now work with us on detaining illegal immigrants in Mexico, and they will accept folks that we are deporting in Mexico, where they were unwilling to do that under the Biden regime. I think you are seeing world leaders around the planet who are recognizing the fact that we have a new leader in the White House. And it is a leader. It is not somebody who is on backbench and you're wondering, where he is or what he's going to trip on next. I mean, yes, I think that is important. And I think Democrats have been hungry for that as well. I don't think they are proud of their last 4 years. I think they're very frustrated with the last 4 years. And they've seen what that has done. It's put them in a minority in both the Senate and in the House. I think they're upset with it. But quite honestly, they were also a part of it. When you start thinking about the bills that they passed and the amount of power that they gave to agencies, the amount of power that they took away from the American people, they were complicit in this. The lies that they spewed, whether or not it was that inflation was transitory or that our borders were secure or that Biden was at the top of his game. Right?
Mental acuity,
you saw all
A+.
of these things that they tried to tell people, don't think that you're looking at this, right? Look over here, shiny object over here. Right. And I think that there's a realization that what happened in November was an awakening, and that the American people want something different. And now here's the problem: we have to perform. We promised a lot. I know President Trump in his campaign promised a lot. We were trying to get a reconciliation package passed, by April 3rd, April 4th. And there's going to be a lot that's in that, including, all sorts of tax cuts that are transcending from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act to make sure that we don't have 90% of American taxpayers facing increases in their taxes that they've never seen before. There's a lot we've got to get done, and we have to work in a unified manner. We have such a small majority, but I think the fact that we have an ability to be able to have a Senate where we're not thinking, well, what can we get the Democrats in the Senate to pass? And then we also don't have to worry about, well, what can the Democrat that's in the White House pass? It's a brand new day. You've got all three branches, and I think, there's actually an opportunity to get a lot done. We have to work together. There will be compromise. There will be negotiations, but we will have movement.
What do you make of the beef, the rift that is being lauded in the media between Elon Musk, the Doge people, and Bannon and others that are, at odds on the H-1B visa debacle?
Well, I don't know that Trump has ever said he's against importing people on merit. I think he's been very consistent on that. And when you look at the H-1B1 visa, that's what that is. Now, you want to make sure that it's not abused. Our first concern should be making sure that we are protecting the American worker. Without a doubt, that you are not importing people that are going to be able to take jobs that Americans could have. But look, I was also mayor of, the 92nd largest city in the country, Irving, Texas. We had seven Fortune 500 companies. You want to make sure you're also hiring the best of the best.
Oh, yeah.
We need to make sure that we're competitive. But we also need to protect
stand by 1
worker.
second. We're going to take a quick pause right here. Folks, we're on with Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, Republican from Texas's 24th Congressional District. Coming right back. Don't move a muscle. It's Rich Valdez. We're live with Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our conversation with Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. And Congresswoman, we're just talking about the influence that having a real leader makes. And Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, just did an interview with Lex Friedman, and he said something that was interesting to me. I want you to listen to this.
It won't be long because Europe will be looking at us and will be looking at Trump. And by the way, I now see that when I talk about something with Donald Trump, whether we meet in person or we just have a call, all the European leaders always ask, how was it? This shows the influence of Donald Trump. And this has never happened before. With an American president, I tell you from my experience, this also gives you confidence, that he can stop this war.
Pretty strong words, I think, from a foreign leader. And again, he's probably groveling, hoping he can get a few more billions out of Trump the way he did out of Biden. But all that being said, what's your reaction to that?
Well, I think he's got a point when he says that, I don't know that we haven't seen this before. I think we have seen this before. I think what we've seen in the last 4 years is an absolute vacuum in leadership from the U.S.
Right.
You've had a president who has been absent. You don't know who's in charge. And they have been giving, a pass to every single European company or a country to make a decision on where we're going, and then we're going to follow. We haven't seen that before. So I think Trump coming in, like him or not, the fact is that during his first 4 years as president, people respected him because when he said he was going to do something, he did it. And, whether or not you were, in Mexico, you were in Canada, you were in China, you recognized the fact that this was not going to be a leader that was going to back down based on intimidation. He would stand toe-to-toe with you and go to battle over what was in the best interest of America. And whether or not that is battling, an enemy in Russia and helping Ukraine, possibly. Whether or not that was going to Mexico and saying, we need help at our border because we're not going to put up with the amount of fentanyl that is coming over that is killing our youth. We are not going to put up with the number of terrorists that you are specifically, not helping us protect our country. We are not going to put up with the number of people that you are having that you don't want in your country that you are basically sending to ours. You have a president now who is willing to take the tough interviews, answer the questions, but also make those phone calls to world leaders that is setting the stage. This is the expectation, and this is our power. And it is power without necessarily military might, but it's actually having that backbone to say, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to do what we say we're going to do. And that's been lacking for the last 4 years.
It reminds me of the colloquial term leader of the free world, and how that is a title that is given to the occupant of the Oval Office because, in effect, that is what you are. And it was always lost on me how Biden, for corruption or for anything else, he never, ever harnessed this ability. He kind of always succumbed to the will of some other leader in the free world, but he was never the leader of the free world. I don't know why, but it just, you're right, there was a complete vacuum and lack thereof the last 4 years. So it's really refreshing to see that, there's a new sheriff in town.
Yeah, well, he hasn't even been sworn in yet. And everybody's already bowing down, recognizing the fact that, we may have been critical, of his first 4 years, and we may have been very positive of Biden, but we recognize the fact that he's going to be in office for 4 years. And he has got the respect, he has got the support of his country. We need to get behind him. Because there's, whether or not it's access to our markets, our economy, our goods and services, our military might, our trade, and all of those things, they want to make sure that they're working well with the U.S. and they have those kind of positive relationships. And quite honestly, I think, whether or not you've been friendly or not friendly with us in the last 4 years, I think Trump is going to come in and is going to be a refreshing voice in the Oval Office that is going to speak from a position of power, but is also going to speak from a position of what is positive for the U.S. I'm on Ways and Means. Yes, we're looking at a tax package, but we are also looking at trade and being able to use the ability to trade in place of necessarily having to have that might from the military. There's a tremendous amount that you can get done with financial resources, with economic resources, that you can't always get done with the military, and it is a very strong position. And when we're looking at our number one adversary in the world, which I would argue is China,
Sure.
that is a really strong position, which we have completely abandoned in the last 4 years.
Now, would you say that it is the threat of tariffs or the threat of the military or a combination thereof that is getting other world leaders like President Sheinbaum in Mexico and Prime Minister Trudeau to step aside in Canada and others? It seems like there's a lot of movement internationally, a lot of deference being given to the United States, to the Trump administration. And I think it has a lot to do with him being a businessman, but that could be my own bias.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, Trudeau, obviously, it's with the threat of tariffs. And I think, look, are we going to necessarily throw down all of the tariffs that President Trump is talking about? No, but it's a good negotiation tool. When you are looking at Mexico, absolutely. Not only is it tariffs, but it's also our military. When we think about the damage that the drug cartels have imposed on our country, on our country's youth in the last 4 years, we should absolutely be looking at military activities and looking at foreign terrorist organization, criteria when we're looking at drug cartels. And so is that going to affect our working ability, our working relationship with Mexico? Absolutely, because if they are not willing to get their drug cartels in line, we will. And I think that is a threat that not only has been made, but that should be taken seriously. And I think what you're seeing from the Mexican president is that absolutely is taken seriously. Under Biden, a threat meant nothing. Trump is willing to do it. And you talk to Pompeo, and he will tell you when we went down to Mexico and he was negotiating, their Remain in Mexico policy. Look, we're not going to give you, any of the aid that we typically give you. Not only is it that, but it's tariffs thrown on top of it. It's the idea that you're going to designate their drug cartels as FTOs, as foreign terrorist organizations. What will that mean? Yes, that will mean military engagement. No, Mexico doesn't want that. Of course they don't want that.
I'm sure the
but
cartels didn't want that either.
Biden, the Biden presidency, it meant nothing. But under the Trump presidency, it means something entirely different. They're waking up, they're identifying that, and they're willing to work with us now.
Well, that sounds good. And Congresswoman, you said by April-ish for the tax proposals to be put into place. Any chance we might move swifter, or is that a pipe dream in the swamp?
No, absolutely. I think what you're looking at is the ability from executive orders to take on policy that's happening at the border and making sure that we are looking at a Remain in Mexico, that we're getting rid of the app that we can just let people come in. I think you're going to get security over the border in the next 2 weeks. Absolutely on day one. But we want to make sure that, they have the ability, they have the resources, that Tom Homan has the resources that he needs to be able to look at deportation of criminal illegal aliens, for example. We want to make sure that those tax cuts from the TCJA are being considered and being transferred over. Will we be able to get that done by April 3rd, April 4th? I'm optimistic that we will. We're going to have two more votes in the House. Hopefully, you've got you've got Matt Gaetz's position and you've got Mike Waltz. We're going to have an election in Florida to be able to replace those two members. That will happen, April 1st. So I am very optimistic that those elections will happen and that we'll be able to have a vote on a very large reconciliation package in the first week in April.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about it, folks. This is our conversation with Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne from Texas 24. Congresswoman, let everybody know where they go to find you and keep up with the great work you're doing.
BethForTexas.com is the best way to get in touch with me. I'm also, we're on every single social media platform. And if you're in D.C. and you want to have a very cool picture taken outside of our window in Longworth over the Capitol, come visit us. Love to see you.
I'll stop by and say hello during Inauguration Week.
Very cool.
Sounds good. Good talking to you. Godspeed to you, and have a great New Year.
You too. Happy New Year.
Folks, there is more to come when we return. Don't go anywhere. Plus your calls, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Familia, we continue our conversation, our late-night national town hall conversation with what we like to call open phones across America. Now, Open Phone America, the phone lines are open for you to call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. But I want to play a clip of audio for you first. And the clip of audio I've got is of Simone Sanders. Now, you might remember, she was a spokesperson for Bernie Sanders and his presidential campaign. And then she took a job working for Vice President Kamala Harris as her chief of staff or her spokesperson, something to that effect. Anyway, Simone Sanders, you've seen her on MSNBC. She's got her own show there. And she's got the very, very short hair. She says that unequivocally, yes, Biden's mental acuity is all there. Listen to this.
I was very surprised that when you asked the question about mental acuity, he didn't more forcefully push back. The question on the table is the president all the way there? And the answer is unequivocally yes. Now, people can say that you feel as though President Biden might be a little too old to do the job, but he is doing the job, and his mental acuity is there. So I think that there's a conflation of two things here, is his mental capacity and serving another 4 years as old as he is. But those are two separate things, in my opinion. And look, these people that have known Joe Biden their entire political lives, I know Joe Biden is like, can y'all just please defend me a little more?
Again, that's Simone Sanders. Now, she's commenting on the response that Senator Schumer gave in his interview with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press just yesterday. And he says, no, we didn't mislead the American public about Biden's cognitive decline. He then went on to do that very same defending that she's talking about, right? She says, why won't you defend us? Well, Chuck Schumer was there not only to defend the fact that he wasn't lying to anybody, that Biden was all there, A+ A game with his mental acuity, but he went on to say that they did a lot of good things, the Democrats. And he's saying they only lost because Americans just didn't realize how much Democrats actually did for them. Check this out.
So we did a lot of good things, but all too often, Kristen, we talked about the mechanics of the legislation and the details of the legislation, and we really didn't show the kind of empathy and concern to average, or show enough of it to average working families who didn't realize how much we had done and how much we care for them. So what we're going to do is spend a lot of time talking to working families, showing them how much we care about them, and not just talk about legislation, but talk about the conditions that have made so many working families worried about their futures. And that's going to be a significant change.
Again, that's Chuck Schumer trying to double down here, saying, look, we messed up here. Not because we didn't do great work. It's because we didn't sell it good enough to the American people. Chuck Schumer, you're a fake, a phony, and a fraud, and you know it. Now, funny story, and I may have shared this with you, but I know we have some new affiliates, so you may not have heard some of my stories. But when I was a kid, I grew up in Brooklyn, and on Avenue U for a while, but then on Avenue M and the corner of Ocean Avenue. And Schumer used to have an office somewhere near Kings Highway, and he would walk in the neighborhood. He was a very good retail politician, and he would stop by. He'd say hello. He'd mess up my hair if he saw me riding my bike. He'd say hello to my mom and dad if they were around. He was a real man of the people, and how things have changed. I saw him a couple of years ago. Maybe not even. I think it was last year at the Puerto Rican parade on Fifth Avenue in New York City, and I probably, said something in a little snide to him. I don't remember. But the point was, he was not very nice. He was not very nice at all. And I don't think I was being rude, but it was just like, man, what happened to the Schumer of yesteryear, right? The Schumer that was nice to everybody. I think once, he knows you don't like him or you're critical in some way, he's not willing to engage. So that's typical of Democrats. Yeah, it's funny. Folks on my side of the aisle, they can't wait to get on CNN. They can't wait to get on MSNBC if they can get an invitation. Isn't that funny? Anyway, more to come straight ahead. Your calls. We got the speed round left. Plus, I got more audio, so hopefully we can get those calls in. I appreciate your patience. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Congressman Kinzinger, you were in the House. You actually tweeted at 4:30 p.m. 4 years ago on this day. You tweeted, "This is a coup attempt." Do you think that history will remember this the way it actually happened?
Yeah, I do. Look, we're in this emotion. Donald Trump got defeated. He convinced. He convinced his base that that election was stolen from him, and that for 4 years built this intense anger where they truly believed this deep state, garbage was happening. He's going to be president now for 4 years. He's going to own everything that happens in the economy, everything that happens in the world, and that excitement that we've been robbed will wear off. And history has this amazing ability to accurately reflect the happenings of that day. And so while maybe today it's kind of surreal that we're here 4 years later after that and putting Donald Trump back in the presidency, history will not be kind to him.
History will not be kind to him. Sir, history is going to forget you because it basically already has. That's Congressman Adam Kinzinger. He says that Trump is going to be looked at in an unfavorable way historically. Imagine this. Imagine that you're president, and then you say, they stole the election. I'm going to run for president again. You run, you win bigly, as he would say. And then there's this Kinzinger who becomes an instant nobody, and all of a sudden he believes that Trump is going to be looked at less than favorably. Now, listen, I understand there's going to be people out there who are going to be critical of Trump, and they're going to say things that, aren't nice in the story they want to tell. Like, there was controversy. He insisted that the election was stolen, that type of thing, insinuating that there weren't massive election irregularities all over the place. But the bottom line is this. The people decided. You can't change history when you have the people saying, we want this man back. When you have world leaders saying, we're going to play ball with this guy. I mean, it's just that simple. So to think that they're going to rewrite history to tar and feather Trump, I'd say, sir, you might want to rewrite history so they don't totally forget you. Unbelievable. Anyway, I want to talk more about January 6th straight ahead. We got another hour coming up for you, plus your calls in the final segment of each hour, 833-482-5337, open phones across America. And for those of you that are signing off now, hasta la próxima, take care, God bless you. And for those that are tuning in for another hour, I can't wait. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Monday evening. We're live, we're national. That means if you want to give us a call, you're welcome to do so. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And it was snowy in the nation's capital today. Shout out to our friends at WMAL. Where there was a certification of elections. Donald Trump certified as the 47th president-elect of the United States. Kamala Harris, who was being taunted all over social media for being the first woman of color to have to certify her own election loss. We have a clip of that. I'm going to replay it for you. Check this out.
The votes for President of the United States are as follows. Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 312 votes. Kamala D. Harris Kamala D. Harris of the state of California has received 226 votes.
Now, of course, que mala eres, as I like to call her, which means how bad you are in Spanish, of course. Que mala eres, the vice president of the United States. She did it somewhat graciously, I believe. So good for her on that front. But it was a glorious time for me to watch. I watched it. I enjoyed it. And others in the media, others on Capitol Hill weren't so excited, right? Yet Nancy Pelosi saying that it's not quite done. January 6th is something that continued. She was on Face the Nation yesterday with Margaret Brennan, and she said that the violence doesn't end here. Trump is going to urge them all to continue, just like he did 4 years ago with pardons and whatnot. Listen to this.
So when you hear about pardons, do you think the nonviolent attackers deserve to be pardoned?
The nonviolent, I think that's a violent attacker with the intention.
The violence itself.
Yeah.
The violent language, you think.
The violent language, yes, the intention. And, of course, the intention to attack the vice president of the United States. Now, it didn't end that day. As you know, he called out to these people to continue their violence. My husband being a victim of all of that, and he still has injuries from that attack. So it just goes on and on. It isn't something that happens and then it's over. No, once you are attacked, you have consequences that continue.
Now, look, I don't know if I misunderstood what Nancy La Bruja Pelosi was just saying, but I will say this. It sounded like she said that Trump caused the attack on her husband, when we all know it was some gay hooker that attacked her husband. I don't think that guy had anything to do with Trump, per se. As far as I know, I remember they tried to pin it. I mean, they try to pin every attack, right? Every last attack that happens, they try to pin it on Trump one way or another, right? Doesn't matter if they have a manifesto praising, Biden and Bernie Sanders and Karl Marx. They'll say, yeah, he was a Trump supporter. But the reality is you do a little digging and you find, not really, not so much. Now, if she was saying that, my husband was also attacked and I know what it's like, that PTSD related to the attack, well, that's a different story. But it doesn't sound like she was saying that to me. It sounds like she was trying to blame this one on El Trompito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States, El Presidente, Donald J. Trump. And I can't imagine how she could even link that to him. But, I mean, this is the type of crazy that we're dealing with, right? This crazy permeates Washington. Reality doesn't matter, right? I talked about this earlier, and I didn't get to it, so I'll get to it in a little bit. But you've got a lot of members of Congress, like not the least of which AOC, right? AOC, who 4 years ago said that she was afraid of getting raped. And again, I'm not trying to trivialize getting raped. I'm trivializing the fact that she wasn't even in the building, right? She was in an adjacent complex through a tunnel, 2 blocks down, across the street, underground. She wasn't remotely close, but she tried to make it sound like she was there. Just because they, put the whole place on lockdown doesn't mean that, you were in the midst of it. But my point is, there are people like AOC and people that agree with her, like Mitch McConnell, that come up with these warped ideas in Washington. One of those warped ideas is that if Puerto Rico were to become a state, that it would automatically, hands down, have 2 Democrat U.S. Senators. Now, this sounds like a cop-out to me. One, because I've never seen any proof for this. It's not like every last politician that comes out of Puerto Rico is a Democrat. I'd say it's quite the contrary, right? You have the current resident commissioner of Puerto Rico, at least the one that just resigned last week. Why'd she resign? Because she became governor of Puerto Rico, right? Jennifer Gonzalez Colon, a Republican member of Congress, the resident commissioner for Puerto Rico. Now she's the governor there. And she ran on a Make America Great Again platform for Puerto Rico. I thought that was pretty interesting. So we're going to get to that. I'm going to do a whole little segment on that because I think there's a misconception. And I understand some of my friends, my colleagues in this business and others, they think that it's hands down a bad way to go. But Puerto Rico's not D.C., right? It's not like they said, wow, D.C. overwhelmingly came out and put Trump over the top. But a majority of Hispanics did for Trump, including the Puerto Ricans in Orlando, in Allentown, Pennsylvania, in the Bronx, right? So to think that Puerto Ricans don't skew conservative, I think is a mistake. But anyway, that was just something I wanted to mention because that was in the news recently. Another thing that happened today, Justin Trudeau quit his job as governor of governor. I'm off today, right? As Prime Minister of Canada after Trump tweeted and said he would become the governor of the 51st state, which would be Canada, of course, taking shots at him. And I think Trump trolled him to the point of making him quit, which is just fantastic. We're going to get into that as well. But I want to talk about this idea of pardons on J6, right? People that were arrested. And we had a great interview with Jake Lang. He called in the show, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 days ago, something like that, just before Christmas. And we had a good conversation with him from jail. He's still locked up. And if I get a chance, I'm going to replay that interview for you in the third hour of the show, which is the hour that's followed, just about an hour from now. I'll replay that. So if you are one of the great affiliates that gets the third live hour of this show, amen, praise God, hallelujah. If you're not, I recommend go to richvaldez.com and stream it live because we are live in the next hour as well. But I want to talk about January 6th, and I want to do it with somebody who was there. So coming up, we're going to have a conversation. We're scheduled to have a conversation with somebody who's having lots of conversations. We're going to try something we haven't tried before, somebody who's simultaneously, concurrently hosting a Twitter Spaces chat and going to have an interview on the hundreds of affiliates that we have on this program and the millions of listeners that we have. So I'm looking forward to that straight ahead. Plus your calls, open phones across America. That's a tradition that doesn't change. On the final segment of each hour, we talk to you, we the people, the American people. 833-482-5337 is the phone number for that. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue the conversation. Of course, your calls are coming up, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I want to play a clip for you from now Senator Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff for Brains, as he's popularly known on this show. He was on Meet the Press yesterday, and he says that pardoning the January 6 rioters would send a terrible message about democracy. Listen to this.
If the president goes forward with pardoning vast numbers of people involved in that violence, he will begin his new administration the way he ended his last administration, and that is by celebrating violence against our democracy. I think that would be a terrible start, send a terrible message about our democracy, about lawlessness, about people who attacked police officers. It'd be exactly the wrong message and the wrong way to start out an administration.
I think the tremendous attack on democracy was from Matthew Graves, Lisa Monaco, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and so many of the Democrats, not the least of which are their acolytes in the FBI and the 26 informants that they had in the crowd, right? I mean, to me, that sounds like a real attack on democracy. But hey, who's counting? I want to talk to somebody who was there. He's been on the program before. I'm glad he's back. Happy New Year to you, Brandon Straka, founder of the Walkaway Movement.
Hey, how's it going, Rich? Good to be here.
Thank God, man. Thank God. So here you are. It's your anniversary. You're a free man. You were able to observe everything that happened today. Tell me what you think of Adam Schiff, and then give me your thoughts on everything overall.
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm not a free man. I'm still under federal supervision. You're right. So I'm going to be under federal supervision right now for another 17 days. Now, just so nobody's confused, that has nothing to do with Trump's inauguration. My probation actually ends at 11:59 p.m. on January 23rd. That's 3 days after the inauguration. The only thing that would change that would be if a pardon would come between January 20th and January 23rd. So I've spent some time in jail. I spent some time on house arrest, and I'm still on federal supervision. So not a free man yet.
Got it. Now, is federal supervision similar to house arrest? Are you still able to travel and do your business and you're speaking, or no?
So supervision, federal supervision means that I have a probation officer, and that that I have to get permission to leave the district that I live in. I'm currently residing in the state of Nebraska, and as it happens, the state of Nebraska, the entire state is a district. But there are a lot of states in this country, like, for instance, California is 5 different districts. So if I were under federal supervision in the state of California, I would have to request permission from my probation officer to travel from one area of California to another area of California. And yes, I have to get permission every time I leave the state that I live in. That's a part of it. And report in and drug testing and things like that.
Now, do you think what the now Senator Adam Schiff for Brains said, that pardoning folks involved in January 6th would be tantamount to another attack on democracy? Do you think there's any accuracy or validity to that?
No, I don't think that there is at all. I think that what they did was took a lot of innocent, good people who have no criminal records, people who were in their 50s, 60s, 70s and older, who had never committed a crime or been convicted of anything, had any prior criminal record. And they turned these people into domestic terrorists. They turned them into violent anarchists and rioters. And they turned them into insurrectionists. And they did all of this because they wanted to try to prevent Donald Trump from being able to run for president again. And they wanted to try to destroy the MAGA movement. And everybody who was connected with January 6th was just collateral damage in their agenda and their pursuit to do that. So, pardoning people whose crime was walking into the Capitol through open doors, or like in my case, I didn't even enter the Capitol on January 6th. I was outside, and they charged me with a felony for being on restricted grounds, as they say. The idea that somehow, we're terrorists and insurrectionists and that pardoning us is a threat to democracy. I mean, I think the biggest threat to democracy is rounding up innocent American citizens and extraditing them to Washington, D.C. and throwing them in prison cells for, standing on restricted grounds or entering a building maybe where they weren't supposed to be.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Folks, we're on with Brandon Straka. He's the founder of the Walkaway Movement, and he was at the President Stop the Steal rally back in 2021, walked over near the Capitol, never went inside, and was magically arrested days later and is still dealing with it. As you just heard, he's not a free man yet. He's got another 17 days to go. And when you hear the rhetoric, going on from the left, I hear Pelosi saying that, he basically launched an insurrection. There's another one I got here that says it was a coup attempt. I mean, it's just the real coup attempt was them on him, in my opinion. But it's just so funny to see them overreacting. How does that make you feel, having been through the ringer the way they put you through it?
I mean, at this point, honestly, I'm pretty numb to all of this rhetoric. Like, I would say for the first year to 2 years, it was really devastating on a regular basis. I mean, all of us who went through this, the vast majority of us took plea deals, which means that nearly every person confessed to things that they didn't do and took ownership for things that they didn't do. And then the rest of those people went to trial, and it was even worse for those people because everybody who went to trial is being found guilty by D.C. judges and juries, and being found guilty on all counts or all charges against them. So, I mean, for the first year or two that you go through, having the media constantly saying that you did things that you didn't do, accusing you of being a violent insurrectionist and really assassinating your character, your reputation, destroying everything that you've worked for, your relationships, your business. It's devastating. I mean, it's just like endlessly devastating. And there weren't really that many people in the conservative media who were speaking out and giving people a platform to try to set the narrative straight about what was going on. Most of us just sort of had to sit back and take it for years and years. And at this point, I'm pretty numb to it, honestly. I mean, it's, when I hear them saying their hyperbolic crap about, January 6th and, threat to democracy and an attempt to overthrow the government, my brain just kind of goes numb because I've heard it so much and dealt with it for so long.
Wow. Folks, we're on with Brandon Straka, founder of the Walkaway Movement, and he's been on the program several times. As soon as he was allowed to, actually, I think he came on. But I want you to share a little bit of your story and what it was like, because I'm going to say you sound so much better today. But I remember that first conversation we had after this went down, and you sounded very distraught, very, very distraught. And I want you to walk people through that, because I think a lot of people don't know what it was really like to go through such an experience. So if you'll indulge us when we return. And folks, again, the number, if you want to join us right after that, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ is the phone number. If you are in certain parts of the country, you'll get to hear our conversation with Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. That will come up the hour after this one, right? I think so. Or the hour after the next one. If you were listening right here on the East Coast, then you've probably already heard it. But all of that's coming up straight ahead. Again, we're coming right back with Brandon Straka, founder of the Walkaway Movement. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation with Brandon Straka. And I want to quickly go to the phones, 833-482-5337. Janice is calling us from New Orleans, Louisiana, streaming the show tonight, KFXZ. Janice, go right ahead quickly. You're on with Brandon Straka and Rich Valdez.
Oh, Mr. Valdez, I wanted to tell you how much I enjoy your program. And Brandon, it's an absolute thrill and a pleasure getting to speak to you for a second. I've seen you on the internet. I've been aware of what you're doing for quite some time. And I walked away myself a number of years ago, back in 2008. And what you're doing is so wonderful. I thank you so very much.
Thank you, Janice. Brandon?
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you calling in to say that, and I'm really glad that you walked away from the Democratic Party, and I hope that walk away was able to inspire you in some way. So thanks for calling in and saying that.
Outstanding. Janice, I appreciate it. It's not every day that people get to make those types of warm thank yous, so I'm glad you called in. And Brandon, I want to play for you this audio clip of Sunny Hostin. She is, of course, one of the locas on The View, and she today makes this crazy incendiary comparison about January 6th, and I think you'd be a great person to get a reaction from. Listen to this.
You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on, because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, like World War II, things that happened, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery, we need to never forget, because past becomes prologue if you forget any race.
Wow, that's a whole lot to say. January 6th is tantamount to the Holocaust. Meanwhile, you went through your own personal hellhole, Brandon.
Yeah, tantamount to the Holocaust. Yeah, remember that time Hitler put on a horn helmet and walked inside the Capitol, just like the Holocaust. No, I mean, the fact remains, if it was so bad, why did they have to keep lying about it? I mean, if it's tantamount to World War II or the Holocaust or Pearl Harbor or 9/11 or any of these other things, why did they have to tell so many lies to try to make it as bad as humanly possible? Do you remember shortly after January 6th? Do you remember when it was the deadly insurrection? Do you remember when we lived through that? And then, lo and behold, actually, no police officers were actually killed. Oops, we made a mistake. But that wasn't front page news. That wasn't headline news. That was buried, retracted on page 17 in small print. Oops, we accidentally said that the Trump supporters killed people on January 6th, but that actually didn't happen. I mean, it's like, if it was so horrible and it was so bad, why have they had to lie about every detail to try to make it as awful as possible?
Yeah, well, obviously, because they're fakes, they're phonies, and they're frauds. And this whole thing was, in my opinion, I mean, it was perpetrated on you as an individual, but it was this huge lie that was, perpetrated on the American people. And for anybody who hasn't heard your story, and I think many have, but we have some new affiliates that just joined us last week, share just a little bit of what it was like when you were locked up, what it was personally, what it felt like for you.
Well, to be clear, so I went to jail after being raided by the FBI. So the FBI came to my house on the morning of Monday, January 25th, at dawn. I woke up at the crack of dawn to pounding on my door. I mean, the type of pounding that something is very, very wrong. And as a matter of fact, I went running to the door because I could tell that they were going to break. And I knew it was them. I mean, there was no question in my mind what was going on. And when I opened the door, there was a team of agents on the other side, about 8 or 9 agents in tactical gear, wearing vests with weapons. They came into my apartment. Within 30 seconds, my hands were cuffed behind my back, and they told me that I was facing multiple felony charges for, quote, what I had done on January 6th. And I very reflexively said, felonies? I didn't even commit any crimes. And the lead agent said, I saw your video. I saw what you did. You're in big trouble. And with that, a team of agents came into my apartment, began stripping it of my phones, my hard drives, my computers, my thumb drives, my camera equipment, clothing. And I was marched through my apartment building with cuffs behind my back and taken to jail. So I spent 2.5 days in jail, not months in jail or years in prison or months in prison like so many other January 6ers did. And that in itself was like something out of the Twilight Zone, because the way they had raided my house, you would think that they were trying to find Osama bin Laden. But then they take me to jail. They put me in 24-hour lockdown. And after a couple of days, I had an opportunity to stand before a federal judge who told me that this was the case of the United States of America versus Brandon Straka. And that's when the federal prosecutor said, Your Honor, we know Mr. Straka didn't engage in any violence, vandalism, theft, or destruction, and we know that Mr. Straka didn't enter the Capitol. So, Your Honor, we're comfortable not seeking detention of Mr. Straka pending his trial. And it's like, okay, well, if you knew all of these things, why did you just send a SWAT team into my apartment like a scene out of CSI or something, upending my whole life over something that you're admitting yourself seems like a minor act of trespass at best. But the time in jail was actually, despite the fact that it was short for me, it was very, very scary because the only thing that I knew was that I was facing multiple felonies in conjunction with January 6th. Now, this was 2.5 weeks after January 6th, when all we had been hearing on the news 24 hours a day was insurrection, treason, sedition, terrorism, Trump terrorists. I literally sat in that jail cell believing that these felony charges were probably charges of terrorism or treason or, some sort of seditious act against America. And Joe Biden had just become president 5 days before I was arrested. The Democrats had just taken full control of the federal government. And I was just waiting for the door to open and to find out that I was being extradited to Washington, D.C., where I was going to probably spend the rest of my life in a prison cell on treason or terrorism charges.
Unbelievable. Well, I'm glad you're all right, and I'm glad you're 17 days away from being a free man. I appreciate you being with us tonight and taking some time away from your Twitter Spaces to join our late night national conversation. Let everybody know how they can find you and follow you and all, to learn more about the great work you guys do at Walkaway.
Sure. So I'm Brandon Straka. People can follow me on Facebook or X or any of the platforms at my name, at Brandon. My last name is spelled Straka. If they want to learn more about Walkaway, please go to walkawaycampaign.com, sign up for our email list, our texting list. We'd love to get in touch with you as we rebuild the Walkaway organization. We have a lot of work to do in the coming years. It certainly doesn't end with 2024. And for anybody who'd like to support the January 6th community and people as we seek justice and restoration for everything that we've been through, I encourage people to go to a new website. It's called wearej6.com. If you're a J6er, you can sign up there. Or if you are an advocate or somebody who supports the J6 community, also sign up there so we can keep in touch with you and let you know how you can be of help to us as we pursue justice and restoration going forward. And that's wearej6.com.
Check it out, wearej6.com. Brandon Straka, Walkaway Movement. Brother, Godspeed to you. I appreciate it. Have a great new year.
Hey, Rich, thank you so much. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of all J6ers for giving everybody a platform literally since day one, being one of the brave and courageous people who actually use your platform to help people get the truth out. Thank you so much.
Amen, brother. My pleasure, and Godspeed to you. Folks, we continue with your calls and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So President Trump today, or yesterday, put out a video outlining his 10-step plan to dismantle the deep state. Now, this, I think, is a tremendous plan. And the reason I want to play it for you, is, to inform you, keep you up to speed on what's going on at night. But, of course, because I have these arguments with people in my family and friends and even some of the callers here that the number one thing Trump is going to do is put everybody in jail. And, of course, that's what the left has been saying, and that's what QAnon has been saying. But it's not necessarily what Trump is saying, right? And if you listen to this plan, he gets, his top 10 priorities to dismantle the deep state. He gets halfway through before he even mentions pressing criminal charges because he understands the gravity of the problem in Washington, the problem that we have with the deep state. Listen to this.
Here's my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all. And corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption. And there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. When possible, we will press criminal charges.
So there you have it. He says, when possible, we will press criminal charges. Now, I only bring this up because I also share in the emotion, right? I also feel like these people should be in jail. This is criminal. This is treasonous. I feel the same way. But I also understand how this thing works. And that's not how it works. They tried to put him in jail. And I think at the end of the day, if we're calling fair, right? Why would we do what the left did? I know some of you are saying, oh, come on, Rich, grow a spine. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Okay, I get it. But ultimately, and I do get it. And there's situations where I think that's right. Right? I think if the left is going to, be heavy-handed with certain things, I think they have to know that we're going to respond in kind. However, if they're so heavy-handed that it's like, we're going to go and rape and pillage your village. Okay. If you do that, then I'm going to do the same thing to you. I don't know that we should respond that way, right? Because ultimately, we don't want to rape and pillage people's villages, right? Maybe another Hiroshima or Nagasaki. Okay, maybe, right? There should still be a consequence, but it can't be the same consequence, right? It has to be measured, and it has to be at least a little bit more fair. Otherwise, we don't have any moral high ground. And I think that's ultimately the place that we always have to land. Do we possess the moral high ground? Are we doing the right thing? Do two wrongs make a right? And I think we all know the answer to that. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you don't agree. But that's where I land on this stuff. So I'm glad that Trump said that. And he's got a couple of more points. I'm going to let the rest of this play just so that you get the whole plan. Check this out.
We will make every Inspector General's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. Seventh, I will ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies to ensure they are not spying on our citizens or running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on my campaign. Eighth, we will continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Just as I moved the Bureau of Land Management to Colorado, as many as 100,000 government positions could be moved out, and I mean immediately, of Washington to places filled with patriots who love America, and they really do love America. Ninth, I will work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with that they regulate. So they deal with these companies and they regulate these companies, and then they want to take jobs from these companies. It doesn't work that way. Such a public display cannot go on, and it's taking place all the time, like with Big Pharma. Finally, I will push a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on members of Congress. This is how I will shatter the deep state and restore government that is controlled by the people and for the people. Thank you very much.
So that is El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, the 47th president of these United States. And I think, let me tell you, that's a solid plan, right? He just took a couple of minutes there to explain what he's going to do, but very, very clear, actionable items, right? Moving things out of the swamp. Immediately getting rid of bureaucrats that are protected by the senior executive service or civil service. He's saying, no, we're going to get rid of these people. If they're no good, they got to go. That type of meritocracy is exactly what we need. We have to fix the system. Once the system is fixed, you don't need to drain everything as much anymore. Or I guess you could say that is the draining of the swamp, right? Fixing the system kind of weeds out so many of the alligators, the swamp creatures that are already there. Anyway, I want to get your thoughts on that. Is Trump's plan solid? Is it not solid? You know, obviously, I think there's a lot of people out there that want him to do more, especially with locking people up. But I think this is actually something that can work. What say you? 833-482-5337. Again, we're live. We're national. If you're listening to me right now, give us a call. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We continue our late night national conversation. We're live and national. Quick shout out to Eric Yandel. He's on KOKC, Oklahoma City. Shout out to you. And I want to, again, give you the phone number, 833-482-5337. But I wanted to share a couple of thoughts with you because there's plenty of things going on in the news. And we're going to get to that. We have one more hour. The third and final coveted hour of our program is coming up right now. And something I want to talk about is just some of these misconceptions, right? There's a lot of misconceptions, at least in my opinion there are. Right, the idea that if you do things we don't like in a political position, that somehow you should go to jail. Right, that's what the Democrats did to Trump. He did things they didn't like. They wanted to put him in jail. That's not how it works. You're a politician. You use a political process to get rid of this person. Right, they impeach you. They do what they can. They vote you out. But we don't lock people up. Now, should we? Maybe that's a different story. But we don't as a matter of law. Right, it's just not how we handle things. But I have no question that those that are truly guilty of whatever they have done will pay the price, you know, as long as we get the evidence. Anyway, that's coming up next. I want to get your thoughts on that. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Your liberty-loving Latino amigo, el macho de la radio. Happy to be with you. We're live tonight, every night, 833-4825-337, 833-4-Valdez. And if you have the desire to call the program, do it now. I want to get as many calls in this hour of 11 p.m. Eastern time as I can, because for those of you listening between midnight and 1 a.m., we're going to have a conversation with Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne. That's going to take up a good chunk of time, and I don't want anybody to miss out on being able to join the late night national town hall conversation. So our number again, 833-4825-337, 833-4-Valdez. And of course, big news today. El Trumpito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States, was certified as the president-elect along with Vice President J.D. Vance. And that was a big enough thing as it was, but lots in the news today. We also have the anniversary of the January 6th riot on Capitol Hill and a bunch of other items that I'm going to get to. One of the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award recipients that President Biden gave the award to last week was actually photographed with the would-be Trump assassin months before that arrest. That's an interesting story. And we're going to get to all of that stuff, as well as my thoughts on the election of the new governor of Puerto Rico, a Republican, by the way. And what else? And of course, Justin Trudeau quitting after he gets trolled by Trump. So plenty to talk about, but I do want to get to a couple of calls here. A lot of people have been waiting, and I have left some people on hold. Some have been holding longer than others. Let me see. Where can I go? I want to go to Jerome, Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA. Jerome, Jerry Smalls is the illest. What's up, my man?
Hey, what's up, my amigo? What's up?
Happy New Year. It's been a while.
Balamo, let the music get you over, Balamo. Hey, by the way, shake it, don't break it, wrap it up, and I'll take it. Hey, by the way, thank you very much for putting the convicts in office. Convict, CONVICT.
Oh, it's my pleasure to give you Donaldus Magnus for another 4 years. Listen, I did it just for you, Jerome. I knew that you wouldn't be able to sleep and put your pretty head on your pretty little pillow until you knew that El Trumpito, Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president and 47th of these United States, El Presidente, Donald J. Trump, if he wasn't back in office, you weren't going to rest. So you're welcome, brother. My pleasure. Now, tell me, what was it like when you heard your girlfriend, Que Mala Eres, the Vice President of the United States, have to read to the world that she certified the election of Trump with his 312 Electoral College votes, which I predicted, by the way, and that she had a staggering loss? How did that feel?
Only thing I want to say to her is, I will always love you, no matter what Rich Valdez says and the convicts say.
You're a good sport, brother. Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina, thank you for your call, my brother. Shout out to everybody listening on WTMA. And let's see, I'm going to do one more. I know I don't normally take calls this early, but I want to do it because we've had so many people on hold, and I want to make sure we get to everybody. Let's go to Mike in Gainesville, Virginia, listening on WMAL. Mike, go for it.
Hey, Rich, good to talk to you.
Likewise.
Yeah, it was 7 years ago. I got to talk to you when you were screen calling for Mark Levin, and we had a discussion about what difference the world would look like, how our country would be different if Trump were to make the offer to the Democrats that, look, just let me finish the wall complex system, and I will resign when it's completed. And you told me that was the dumbest idea you ever heard. But think how
still sounds dumb.
The last 4 or 5.
It still sounds dumb. Trump won fair and square. Why would he resign? He just won a good 4 years. We need momentum so we can have 4 years following his election. Now another 4 years for the next guy. So I think finish the wall, change the tax code, keep ticking it off right down the list. Mike in Gainesville, WMAL, thanks for your call. Folks, up next, a call from a J6er from jail. Don't miss it.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia, and we continue our conversation. And right before the break, I mentioned that we were going to have a quick sit-down with somebody who knows about January 6th firsthand, somebody who's been incarcerated for an extended amount of time. And matter of fact, he just called in from jail right now. Jake Lang, welcome to the program.
Rich, my brother, God bless you. Thank you for having me on.
Man, it's my pleasure to be on with you. And I know we have limited time because your call is being monitored and timed. But I want you to hear something that President Trump said the night before last. And I think you're going to appreciate it. Listen to this.
I'm going to look at everything. We're going to look at individual cases, yeah.
Okay.
But I'm going to be acting very quickly.
Within your first 100 days, first day?
First day.
First day.
Yeah, I'm looking first
issue
day.
These pardons.
These people have been there. How long is it? 3 or 4 years?
Okay.
You know, by the way, they've been in there for years, and they're in a filthy, disgusting place that shouldn't even be allowed to be open.
That is, again, President Trump on with Kristen Welker on NBC News Meet the Press. And Jake Lang, when you hear the president say he's going to take action on the January 6th political prisoners on his first day, how does it make you feel?
Well, Rich, that filthy and disgusting place, where do you think he was talking about? I am sitting in the Washington, D.C. jail gulag talking to you guys right now. The president-elect, the oncoming president of the United States, just said this place doesn't even deserve to be open. And on day one, he's going to take care of all of the constitutional violations and the wrongs that have happened to us. So how do you think it makes me feel? It makes me feel vindicated. It makes us feel like our sacrifice that we have done for the last 4 years for our country and its freedoms has not been in vain. It makes us feel heard, where we've been abandoned for nearly 4 years by mainstream news media and by basically all of the Republicans in Congress have let us just rot away without making any real clear action to give us a pathway home or to alleviate this two-tiered weaponized system of justice that's destroyed our lives. Makes me feel like I'm finally heard. My voice and my tears have been heard from God.
Amen to that, brother. And Jake Lang, for those who don't know, you've been incarcerated now for more than 1,400 days behind bars with, is it true that you haven't had a trial?
No trial, no constitutional rights have been afforded to me. They've tried to take away my First Amendment right, my Fourth Amendment right. They've raided my cell and taken my legal documents. They've cruel and unusually punished us. They haven't afforded us a fair and impartial jury. Pretty much if you go down the Bill of Rights, every single one, except for quartering soldiers, the Third Amendment in my house is pretty much the only one they haven't done, even though they did kick in the door to all of our houses. The Jan 6ers with federal law enforcement raided us in the middle of the night, flash grenades and red dot beams on our children and whatnot. So maybe even that one's also been violated.
Jake Lang, for everybody who's listening, walk us through what happened. What did you do on January 6th, and how did it go afterwards?
So as everybody knows, January 6th was a government-orchestrated plot, a setup to paint Donald Trump and his supporters and all the Republicans and conservatives and patriots across the country as violent domestic extremists. They had a goal in mind. They wanted to make us look like we were out of control domestic terrorists. And so what did they do? They brought us all down to the Capitol that day without any type of Capitol security. And then when we were all there with tensions very high, our country was being taken over by Marxist communist coup d'etat from Joe Biden installed by Beijing as our next president, and all of the COVID frustration from our country being held in a police state, and all of that, we were still peaceful. And what did they do? They started firing upon an unarmed crowd, a static, peaceful crowd, with rubber bullets and concussion grenades and tear gas, and they turned us into a defensive mob. We were defending our lives, trying to do anything to escape the attacks, the aggressive attacks that were happening on us, where 4 people lost their lives. Ashley Babbitt was shot in the throat mercilessly inside the Capitol. Roseanne Boylan was trampled to death and bludgeoned by the Capitol Police, virtually dying in my arms. And 2 other men, Kevin Greason and Benjamin Phillips, all 4 heroes, they died via heart attacks from getting hit with stun grenades. And all of this is an atrocity. This is like the Boston Massacre. So January 6th to me was a patriotic event, a peaceful revolution, Americans standing up saying we revoke our consent to the stolen election, and then the government using our heavily emotional, tension-filled atmosphere to create what they wanted, a Donald Trump second impeachment, and almost got it so that he wasn't going to be elected again through all of the lies that they told. So I'm just another Jan 6er that was caught up in a government FBI orchestrated plot to turn like another Patriot Act and turn Americans into a further police state.
Now, Jake, you were at the, I'm guessing, the Stop the Steal rally, and then you made your way to the Capitol. You're saying you were met with the force of the Capitol Police. Did you make it inside? Did the altercation that you were describing only happen outside? And were you able to go home? You said they went to your house. Just walk us through the timeline.
Sure. So, of course, I went to the Stop the Steal rally. I watched President Trump speak. He gave an amazing indictment on all of the different counties and places that were stolen, and how this one in the middle of the night, 23,000 votes flipped in an hour with a mail-in ballot drop. And so he gave us real scientific data of how this election was stolen. We walked down to the Capitol. It was a very patriotic, loving, cheer-filled atmosphere. But there was a deep, like I said, kind of like this innate, almost animalistic or cardinal sense, instinctual sense that our country was on the verge of being taken over by Marxists, and we needed to stand up and do something in order for that not to happen, and we decided to use our voices. They attacked us. I was inside the West Terrace Tunnel on January 6th, which is the famous tunnel that the president comes out of for his inauguration. We're going to see President Trump emerge from that tunnel on January 20th and sign the pardons right there on the dais of the Capitol on the West Terrace side in about 41 days from now. And I got caught up inside that tunnel, which arguably is both inside and outside the Capitol because it's kind of like a causeway to get in the Capitol, where there was a deadly ambush on the Jan 6er set up. The Capitol Police brought us in this tightly quartered little space, and they beat us nearly to death. Many people were permanently injured and scarred for life, and including Roseanne Boylan, who lost her life. I tried to save her life, Rich. She was on the ground dying, and I was pulling on her with all my might. I could not save her. She was lodged down underneath a bunch of people. I moved over from her unfortunately, her dying body. It brings so much pain to my heart to think about that purple and blue face that I saw as she was dying. And I moved over from her, and I was able to save another man's life by God's grace. I was in the right place at the right time. Philip Anderson, a young black man, I was able to get up underneath him and bear hug him and drag him out of this dog pile, this human dog pile that the Capitol Police started. And they brought him down to the medical volunteers, and they resuscitated him. And so I was just another man there that day trying to save lives, defend my country, make a stand for our constitutional republic. And the FBI has hunted me down 10 days after January 6th. I was literally surrounded by like 10 SUVs at gunpoint, fully automatic, and thrown in the back of a van, and I've never seen a day of sunlight since then. Wow. As a free man. The entire presidency of Joe Biden, I've been incarcerated without a trial.
Now, when your lawyers reach out, what do they say? They say, we're not giving him a trial because why?
Well, there's many reasons why my trial has been delayed. The government's to blame. They have refused to give me my exculpatory evidence. The video evidence had to be released by Speaker Mike Johnson. As we all know, earlier this year, he went and took it upon himself 3 years after the fact to release 12,000 hours of the January 6th video, which was chock full of exculpatory, exonerating evidence for me and the Jan 6ers. And so the government prosecutors, the George Soros corrupt prosecutors that are going to be washed out by Pam Bondi and the new DOJ. All of them are getting fired. They committed an act of treason, really, against the American people, withholding evidence, Brady violations, and on top of that, we took one of my charges to Supreme Court and won, which was like a 2-year-long process. So it's been a long battle, and now my judge has permanently, well, I don't have an exact trial date yet. It's supposed to be sometime in March, but he suspended my case until the new administration, saying that there's most likely going to be some type of pardons or dismissal of my case. So it's kind of foolish to waste government resources bringing me to trial when it's just going to get washed away.
In the couple of minutes we have left, let everybody that's listening know, Jake Lang, how they can help. Is there a website, a GoFundMe? What do you want us Americans to do?
Yeah, so here's the marching orders, guys out there, my fellow patriots and my Christian brothers and sisters. Pray for us. First and foremost, let's appeal towards heaven, towards our Father God and His Son, Jesus, where all things are possible. Over 900 days in solitary confinement is possible. Keeping a smile on my face and keeping strong and hopeful is possible through His Son's name. Jesus' name is such a good name, so keep on praying in His name for me and the Jan Sixers. And when you're done praying, get online and get over to j6pardons.com. That's the letter J, the number 6, pardons.com, and sign our Freedom Day 1 petition. It's calling for every Jan Sixer to be released from the Gulag on day 1. No stalling, no nonsense. We all go home, no man left behind on day 1. The petition's been signed by tens of thousands. Some huge conservative names have stood in solidarity with us, like Mike Lindell and Laura Loomer and Jim Hoff and Darren Beatty, and you name it, just amazing people, dozens and dozens, plus all the other American citizens out there that have signed. So I want you guys to get over to j6pardons.com and sign that petition for us, please. It means the world to us.
The website is j6pardons.com, j6pardons.com. Brother, Godspeed to you, man. I need you to stay strong. I mean, I'm telling you, I'm on the outside, you're on the inside, and it sounds like you're doing a great job keeping your head up high. And I'm hoping that you guys are as good as you can be in there by God's grace, and just stay strong, brother.
1 minute remaining.
All right, I got the 1 minute warning. Final word?
Well, Rich, I want to thank you and all the American people out there, our brothers and sisters that have never relented. They have stood unwavering in the face of tyranny with us. If it wasn't for you guys out there getting our stories out, praying for us, donating, we would have crumbled a long time ago. So thank you guys for your support. We love you guys. Go to j6pardons.com. Sign the petition.
Thank you, Jake Lang. Godspeed to you, my brother. And folks, we continue straight ahead. Your calls, your thoughts, and more. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Donald Trump wasting no time, Joy, in weighing in on Justin Trudeau's resignation.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's a lengthy statement on Truth Social. He says many people in Canada love being the 51st state. They can no longer suffer the massive trade deficit and subsidies that Canada needs to stay afloat. Justin Trudeau knew this and resigned. Well, we know that not to be true. Canadians do not relish being the 51st state. I think a poll I saw said maybe 13% in Alberta might want to do that. Elon Musk also weighing in, Vashi, mocking Trudeau, saying, well, 2025 is shaping up to be a good year. Trump won and Trudeau resigned.
That is a report from, I don't know, where's that from? Canada TV, CTV, one of their correspondents reading the tweet from the president-elect mocking Prime Minister Trudeau after he savaged him and trolled him for days, for the last month, I'd say, and finally got Trudeau to resign. I laugh because, I mean, literally, he's kind of like a girly man, like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's a girly man, right? Anyway, I want to get some thoughts on that from Ken in Lansing, Michigan, WILS. Ken, go for it.
Happy New Year, my brother.
Happy New Year, Ken.
You always blow me away with some of your guests. That last guy that's in jail for doing nothing is the greatest. It just boils my blood. If there's any kind of fun to help them people get some money when they get out, I'd sure like to hope you have a chance to tell us all.
Yeah, well, that website he went to there, I think, was part of their legal defense. But you're right; it's a tough thing, and we that was actually a replay. We aired that about 8 or 9, 10 days ago when I did that interview, and I wanted to replay it again on January 6th because obviously that today's the appropriate day for that. But you're right; these people have gone through a lot, and I don't mean to make it out to be like every last person that got in trouble didn't do something. There's people that did things. I think the punishment has just been way bigger and way outsized whatever they've done, and including the guy who was had his feet up on Pelosi's desk and whatever and what have you. It's just they tried to make an example where I don't think an example needed to be made, if that makes sense.
Well, Rich, that man is either a professional liar or the truth couldn't be any more real for what he said with what they did to them people.
Yeah, and the way they treat them in those horrible facilities.
And Trump offered security 2 times before all that happened. Pelosi turned it down, and we all know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've had Kash Patel on the program several times telling us of how they offered the National Guard, and it fell on deaf ears because I think they wanted something like this to happen, as shameful as that sounds. It sounds almost Canadian, right, Ken?
Yeah. Thank God. And that's what my original call was to Alex, Rich, was to talk about the great citizens of Canada finally taking that jackass and kicking him to the curb. I actually heard a little clip of him on my phone today. He was talking to a woman about this and that and this rights and that rights. And she goes, she was talking about Christians, health care in other countries, and we could have that help for all of mankind. And it's not even a second after she said mankind, he goes, excuse me, you meant to say people kind, didn't you? And you got a little smattering of applause, and he turned and looked, he goes, see, we can all get educated here today.
That's funny. Let me tell you, this is an interesting time to be alive where you have so many people that have gone so far. And Congresswoman Beth Van Duyne, who you're going to hear from in a little bit, she said something that I thought was really interesting, and it's that she said a lot of the Democrats kind of went along with all this crazy because they were embarrassed. They were embarrassed about what's going on, that they kind of like had to, go along to get along, be team players. But the reality is, she said a lot of her colleagues in Congress, they're looking forward to Trump coming back, and that surprised me.
That's great. And I hope on day one in the first hour, Rich, he pardons every damn one of them people that did do anything violent. Have a great night, my friend. I'll let some other people get on here. You're a true blue patriot, Rich Valdez. God bless you.
Thank you, Ken and Lansing. God bless you too, my brother. I appreciate your call. Shout out to WILS, Lansing, Michigan. And that really is, I think, what's on the table here, right? Is Trump trying to right the wrongs using the power that he has in office. And it's not always about locking people up and throwing away the key. I mean, there's a lot to talk about here, right? Part of, I think, Trump's job is to be the salesman of these ideas, right? These things are good because, right? No tax on tips, maybe an elimination of the federal income tax. I'm throwing stuff out there, right? I'm not saying that that's a thing yet, but I hope it becomes a thing. But this is kind of Trump's job, to introduce these ideas to the people and say, look, this is what we should do. And to just do what overall makes sense, irrespective of who you are. And the reason I think this is so real for so many people is because of this. You look at so many pictures of Trump, and you'll see Trump with Tulsi Gabbard. You'll see Trump with RFK Jr. You'll see Trump with others. And in many of these pictures, 20 years ago, none of those people were Democrats, were Republicans, right? They were all Democrats. That's the new Republican Party, right? Whether you like it or not, it is a populist party where blue-collar workers, where billionaires, you name it. Everybody has something in common with trying to keep America first and do the right thing. Because the right thing doesn't really change based on your income. I think many on the left have tried to make that situation be true. But ultimately, right is right, wrong is wrong, and two wrongs don't make a right. I think life is really that simple when it comes down to things. We tend to overcomplicate things by making the case for things. And I'm guilty of that myself, right? I totally get it. I think sometimes we oversimplify things that need to be complicated a little bit because they really are complex. And we can't just make these simple, sweeping answers to things that are nuanced. But that might be what I'm guilty of. Anyway, we're going to continue that conversation straight ahead. Of course, more calls from you guys. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
I love your show, everything you do. So what an honor, really, to join you and your listeners tonight.
America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
So in light of the New Orleans terrorist attack, Trump allies are urging you and your colleagues in the Senate to move quickly on confirming the president-elect's national security team. You have signaled some opposition to Kash Patel serving as leader of the FBI, but Republicans say delaying his confirmation will hurt operational security. How do you respond to that?
We have a very functional FBI right now that has investigated New Orleans, investigated Las Vegas, came out, told the public exactly what was going on. So I don't believe that to be the case. I believe our job, we just took an oath. I just took an oath, Jake, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And we have a duty to advise and consent. A number of our Republican colleagues in the Senate agree. That's why we must have an FBI check on Kash Patel and these other nominees for these very serious security positions. We must know what their background is. We must see their financial disclosure forms. The president-elect has put in a number of billionaires that could have all kinds of conflicts into these jobs. We must be able to see that, but at the same time as we stand our ground and follow the oath of the Constitution, we also find common ground where we can on things like housing. They say they want to do something about child care. Let's go for it. But if their plan is to simply move ahead and give tax cuts to a bunch of billionaires, as we just heard rumors that's what was coming out of the Republican caucus, that they want to immediately move to that, we're going to stand our ground and hold them accountable for what they said, that they wanted to help average people in our country.
Okay, that is Senator Amy Klobuchar on CNN just yesterday saying that we need to do an FBI background check on Kash Patel. Now, she's not going to hear anything from me saying we shouldn't. What I am going to say is Kash Patel was the chief of staff at the Pentagon. Do you not think that in that capacity there was an FBI check on him? Or what about when he was the lead investigator and the national security advisor to the House Intelligence Committee? Do you think there was an FBI check on him there? What about when he was a federal prosecutor or when he was a federal public defender? Yeah, I think there probably was an FBI background check on him there as well. Why? Because that's how federal law enforcement works, and that's how all these jobs work, and not the least of which is going to be somebody getting nominated to become the director of the FBI. So, yes, I have no doubt in my mind that he's going to, have to pass a background check because there's a bunch of them already on file. The idea that she would say this and then throw in, and we have billionaires. Since when don't you like billionaires, Senator Klobuchar? Since when don't you love George Soros? Last I checked, your big homie, right? Joe El Baboso Biden, he just gave the presidential medal de no sé qué to George Soros as if he's some sort of hero, when in my mind he's a Bond villain, right? Him and Klaus Schwab, they're like these evil European Bond villains with their pinky in their mouth, that kind of evil. Unbelievable. And this is the same Senator Amy Klobuchar that is known, if I'm not mistaken, for getting very angry and hurling a few F-bombs and throwing staplers around. Now, I'm not criticizing her for having a hot temper. I happen to have one myself. But I'm just saying, don't sit here and make it seem like Kash Patel's the bad guy, right? Just because, on occasion you're the bad guy. Come on. I think that's crazy. Now, also yesterday on one of the Sunday shows, Alejandro Mayorkas. Now, Mayorkas is leading up to the same thing, right? He's there saying that for the past 10 years, we've seen a significant increase in what we term homegrown violent extremism. Listen to this.
We have a heightened threat environment, as Director Wray and the Attorney General both articulated, and we've been saying this for quite a number of months. We have not only the persistent threat of foreign terrorism.
It sounds to me as if he was saying we have a heightened threat level because of Director Wray. I'm glad he clarified and doubled down there, saying that it was something Director Wray told him, because I would have said, I could have told you that. Right? So many of these people, these deep state actors that are in positions of power, are the threat. They are the homegrown terrorists. Go right ahead.
Created the Department of Homeland Security, but we have adverse nation states. And for the past 10 years, we've seen a significant increase in what we term homegrown violent extremism. It is a very difficult threat landscape, and it is why that we as a community, not just the federal government, but state and local officials and residents need to be alert to it and take the precautions necessary to avoid violence from occurring.
Listen, if you want to avoid violence from occurring, don't create situations that beg for violence, like what Jake Lang told us about a little while ago. The idea that you could have people at the Capitol and then they get shot with flashbang grenades. After not even being told to disperse, right? Or people just, crashing into them. So then they react. When you have these types of situations, they're not going to end well. And as we saw, they didn't. Some people ended up getting hurt. Others worse. Not a good look. Why are we in this situation to begin with? Right? Because they want to play politics, because they want to play deep state. There comes a time where I think we have to do the right thing, right? I've been saying it all night, and that's what it comes down to, doing the right thing. I don't think that we should react to the Democrats the way they react to us and say, you know what? Since they use law enforcement to create this fake, phony, fraud scenario and entrap people and tell people, wave them into the building and then lock them up for being in the building. Just imagine if we're like, yeah, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, and we do that to them. Just imagine if Trump were to say, I'm directing the Secret Service secretly, as well as the FBI, to tell the Democrats to come on in, and we're going to go ahead and lock them up, throw away the key, orange jumpsuits for Hillary and her friends. I mean, really, just imagine if that were the case. I mean, it would be a disaster. These people have already done so much bad on their own. We don't have to make stuff up. That's what they do. Anyway, I'm going to pause right here. We're going to come right back. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the election of the new governor in Puerto Rico, who is a Republican. He's been in Congress for a number of years as a Republican. And maybe some of your calls, if we can squeeze in any of those before the end of the hour. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
That is a bunch of Canadians booing their soon-to-be former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as he was announcing that he doesn't feel fit. He's not the man for the job. He's a distraction, and he's stepping aside. Let's take a call from our friend Tony, calling from Montreal, Canada, streaming the show on WVMT. Tony, congratulations, brother. You did it.
Yeah, we finally did it. We finally got rid of them. Can you hear me, Rich?
Oh, yeah. I hear you loud and clear, and I'm proud of you. You did some amazing work there. I know your advocacy on American radio, and you have articulated some great points, and you had a lot of support from Trump over the last month, just absolutely shredding him, trolling him, and ridiculing him, and it worked. I feel like he's gotten so embarrassed he decided to quit.
You know, Rich, the thing is, okay, I said this to you last time I spoke to you, and you give me the time to speak and to address these issues into the American consciousness because you're across the United States, and I feel privileged to speak to you guys, all right? But you have to understand, we have a prime minister that's been here for 9 years, and it would be the equivalent of taking a high school teacher and running IBM or the U.S. military. He's not competent, and he's an ideologue, and he's catered to the Soros family and to the Soros money. And, you know, he backstabbed their own country. All you had to do when Trump said to him, well, you're going to be the 51st state, he should have retorted as a leader of a G7, G8 country saying, yeah, well, if we're going to be the 51st state, well, you could become the 12th province of Quebec.
Oh, but that's the problem, Tony. He can't respond that way because he just doesn't have what do they say? The genetic fortitude. Brother, thanks for your call. I appreciate it. Let's bring it right into Marion, Illinois, WGGH. Tim, quickly, go for it.
Hey, anybody that thinks that Joe Biden was competent even years ago, man, they can't find their butt with both hands.
I think you're 100% spot on. Him, Chuck Schumer, these guys are all out of their mind thinking that Joe Biden's all with it. And with seconds on the clock, Charlotte, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA, go for it.
I wanted to say that the Pelosi and gang were prosecuting the J6 based on lies, and then the Russia date from Clinton. And we
You're
would
right.
be going
It's been lie
after
after lie after lie. Charlotte, hate to cut you off, but I got to go. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I am Rich Valdez. I'll be back tomorrow and try to get the calls in earlier. The phone lines are lighting up, and I've got 10 seconds. Hasta la próxima. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm Rich Valdez.